They came for me at dawn. 3 black SUVs crawling up the gravel road, crunching over the stones like a swarm of corporate cockroaches. I was sipping black coffee on the porch of my lakefront ranch, my boots kicked up on the railing when the so-called Iowa security team stepped out like they were, kicking off a raid on a cartel compound. Problem is, this ain't a gated community. They were trespassing on my land. Again, I live out in the rural hills of Tennessee, surrounded by 50 acres of Pine Creek beds, and the kind of silence you only get when you own every inch of the land around you. My lakefront ranch has been in my family for generations, built by my grandfather with his bare hands, and for the past year, I've been locked in a petty war with the HOA from the McMansion development down the road because their property line barely kisses one corner of my woods. Ever since then, they've been trying to tell me what to do with my own land. It started with letters, passive-aggressive notices about unauthorized structures and visual pollution from my dock. Then came the fines I never paid, the threats I ignored. I figured they'd get bored. But today they escalated. The so-called security team marched up in combat, boots, shades, radios clipped to their shoulders like they were about to breach Fallujah. One guy even had a clipboard. I stayed seated and let them talk. Sir, we're here to enforce HOA compliance protocols. You are in violation. I laughed out loud. You're about 6 miles outside your jurisdiction, boys. We have the authority to inspect. That's when I stood up. I'm 6 feet 3 inches, former Army Ranger, and built like a tree stump. I told them once, leave my property now. They didn't listen. They tried to walk toward my boathouse, and that's when it all went sideways. I didn't hit first, but when one of them grabbed my arm and told me I was detained, my training kicked in fast. I spun him, planted a knee into his thigh, and swept him hard. He went down screaming. The next guy pulled something from his belt. Pepper spray. Maybe, but I stepped in close, jammed his wrist back, and sent him into the grass with a hard elbow to the ribs. Last guy ran for the SUV. I let him. The other 2, they were crawling, moaning. One of them was holding his shin like it had snapped in 2, and I was just getting started. I stood there on the porch, arms crossed, watching them crawl back to their SUV like wounded raccoons. One of them, the clipboard guy, tried to act tough even while gripping his shattered shin. You assaulted us. We'll press charges. I tilted my head and stared him down. No, son, you trespassed on private land, and you put your hands on me. What I did, that was self-defense. And trust me, the sheriff here knows me a hell of a lot better than he knows you, HOA parasites. They didn't argue much after that, just dragged themselves into their vehicle, clutching their radios and groaning in pain. I watched them drive off with a bent front bumper and 1 flat tire. I may or may not have placed a couple of cow rips near my gate just in case they tried anything cute. As soon as they were out of sight, I called Sheriff Danner. Small town law, but a straight shooter. He's been to my ranch more than once, usually for coffee and deer jerky, not for trouble. But this time I told him straight. HOA security thugs just tried to detain me on my own land. I put 2 of them on the ground. You might be getting a call. Danner sighed. You serious? As a heart attack. He didn't scold me. Didn't even sound surprised. All right, I'll handle it. Don't talk to anyone else. If they file a report, we'll handle it on paper. But between you and me, they cross a line. See, here's the part that really made my blood boil. This wasn't the first time the HOA poked the bear. It was just the First time they did it wearing fake badges and trying to play soldier. Last month, they threatened to sue me for altering the shoreline. The month before that, they demanded access to my private road to inspect erosion control. I told them to inspect a cactus. What the HOA doesn't get is this. I don't live in your little suburban bubble. I don't answer to lawn care committees, and I sure as hell don't take orders from a bunch of weekend warriors with clipboards. My land has been here long before their cookie-cutter houses, and it'll be here long after their vinyl siding turns to dust. But now they'd escalated, sent people to intimidate me, and in doing so, they declared war. I wasn't about to wait around for the next move. I had a plan, something big. If they wanted to fight, I was going to give them a lesson in country justice. And next time, I wouldn't be so gentle. You ever see a possum play dead? Looks pathetic, right? But give it time and it's back up, gnawing through your feed. Sacks the minute you turn your back. That's exactly what the HOA did. For about a week, things were quiet. No more black SUVs, no letters, no fake citations. But I knew better than to believe they'd given up. Bullies don't stop when they get punched. They just change tactics. Sure enough, a neighbor who lives closer to the development called me late one evening. Said she saw a couple guys poking around the edge of my property, right where my land borders. The back of the lake, hidden from the road. Flashlights, clipboards, cameras. They were casing me. I didn't get mad. I got creative. See, the back of my ranch dips into a wooded patch that shields the lake. Beautiful view. Also real. Easy to hide a few trail cameras and rig a few surprises. So that night, while the frog sang and the wind blew through the pines, I went to work. First, I rewired the floodlights near the boat. Housed a trip with a hidden motion sensor. Anyone sneaking around would find themselves lit up like a deer on opening day. Then I laid out a little welcome mat, some old scrap fencing, half buried under loose leaves, bent just enough to make a grown man trip if he wasn't watching his step. The final touch, a Bluetooth speaker hidden under the deck that played a sound I recorded off a buddy's cattle farm. Angry bull snorts up close and personal. 2 nights later, the HOA sent in their next inspection crew. 2 guys in khakis and vests sneaking around with little notepads and flashlights. Didn't realize they were on camera until bam, they hit the motion sensor. Floodlights exploded. On the speaker blared angry bull sounds, and one of them screamed like a kid at a haunted hayride. The other guy tripped on the buried fencing, flipped forward, and slid halfway into the lake, splashing, cursing, gasping. Oh, I was watching it all live from my phone. The best part, they didn't call for help, didn't report it. They just limped away, soaking wet, dragging their dignity behind them. Next morning, I posted the trail cam footage online, titled it HOA. Inspectors learn what happens when you trespass on a ranch. It went viral in 3 hours. Locals were loving it. Even Sheriff Danner called me laughing so hard he could barely breathe. But the HOA, they weren't laughing. That video, that was the final straw. They came at me with lawyers next. They must have thought they'd finally found their weapon. A lawyer in a press suit, shiny shoes, and a smirk that screamed, I've never chopped wood in my life. His name was Brett something. Doesn't matter. He showed up at my gate with papers in hand, trying to look like some kind of avenging angel sent by the HOA gods. I met him halfway down the gravel drive holding an axe, not threatening, just reminding him whose land he was standing on. You've been served, he said, holding out a thick envelope like it might bite me. I took it, skimmed it, and let out a low whistle. Trespassing, assault, emotional distress, destruction of property. You boys sure do get creative when you're mad. You'll be hearing from us in court. I smiled. Oh, I'm counting on it. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to research, was that I'd already lawyered up months ago. My cousin's a top-tier attorney in Nashville, and when he read the HOA's behavior, he said 6 words I'll never forget. These clowns are going to hang themselves. Fast forward to court day. The HOA rep showed up in full force, suited up, smug, ready to bury me in red tape. But then my cousin walked in with a stack of documents, timestamps, and most importantly, video evidence. The judge, a local, a farmer's son who grew up just 20 miles from my ranch, knew the land, knew how HOAs have been creeping into rural areas and strong-arming landowners. He watched the trail cam footage twice, even asked us to replay the part where one of the inspectors fell in the lake. The courtroom laughed. The HOA didn't. Then my cousin stood up and showed the full history. Unauthorized entries, threatening letters, attempts to detain me on my own land, and the exact property lines verified by the county. Their whole case unraveled like cheap twine. The judge dismissed their claims with prejudice, meaning they couldn't file again. Then, just to sweeten the deal, he fined the HOA for harassment, unlawful trespass, and damage to my boathouse sighting, which one of them had scratched up during their little spy mission. The HOA president turned red as a beet. Brett the lawyer slunk out like a possum that lost a fight with a rooster. It was over. The next day, I posted one last video. Just a slow pan of my lake at sunrise with a caption. To all HOA folks who think they own the world, stay off my land. You've been warned. Now the road's quiet again. The dock's peaceful, and the only footsteps on my property are mine. But I still keep the cow trips by the gate just in case. When the system fails, a rancher delivers justice. If you enjoyed watching this showdown, smash that like button, drop a comment, and tell me, have you ever stood your ground against bullies like this? And don't forget to subscribe for more real deal country justice stories. This was just the beginning.